quite a bit. Let me go and show you very quickly while I have that on screen. You can see, I mean, the really tight rotation, and I'll zoom in. I'll put it in the center of the screen and zoom in, is east of Lake Monroe now. You can just see the new update just came in. Elkinsville, just to your west, really over the town where it says Young. This is still moving to the north and east. Did you have a storm motion on that, Lindsay?
55.
55.
Yeah, northeast at 55.
So probably will likely stay south of downtown Nashville, but certainly going to impact Brown County for sure, as it's already doing. And then looking downstream, I'm just kind of looking ahead here to, say, Columbus, parts of Bartholomew County, where we're expecting some impacts. And keep in mind, even if you're not where the center of that couplet is that we're talking about, it is a very large cell. The severe thunderstorm warning really encompasses several counties, probably 7 or 8 counties for sure, because the wind field with this is going to be well outside of that tornado warning box that you see. And to be honest, looking at it, some of the strongest returns that are showing up are actually outside of the tornado warning. And this may be where we're starting to see some hail coming down. We did see some hail with some of these storms. It was not quite as large as what we had seen, as these were maybe near St. Louis or farther to the south, but we have still seen some hail with these, and wouldn't be surprising to see on the north side of the lake if they were seeing some hail coming down with this, just because of that strong return. It's also likely very heavy rain as well. And also to mention this, for many of you, putting the lightning on, look at the lightning. I mean, it has been quite an electrical set of storms that have swept across the entire area. So many of you may have been awakened by some of the lightning, or perhaps by the sirens from the tornado warning that's now in place, that's going to be in place for Brown County, and then eventually just encompassing the west side of Columbus. We've been tracking this all morning. We are approaching coming up on 5:18 this morning, still watching ongoing severe thunderstorms, and which include the tornadoes that are embedded within that line. This is what we expected. We knew that through about 6 a.m. we'd be tracking these storms as they move through. Things are quieting down from west to east, but if you're, say, east of Bloomington, you still have some time here. Columbus, Seymour, Greensburg, Connersville, we're looking at the possibility of still severe storms, including tornadoes, in the one tornado warning that we're tracking. Lindsay, I noticed you have, we pulled up one of the traffic cameras there near Bloomington. Mm-hmm. We were just mentioning that. I think this area where we're seeing this traffic camera is probably seeing the worst of it move through.
Right, yeah, so just wanted to kind of let everyone in the clear know they're in the clear. So down in Bedford, it has all moved out. For your area over in Bloomington, it has cleared. It's basically now clearing the very southeastern extent of Monroe County. Just to getting some reports, this is from everyone in the chat. Really appreciate giving us this information, saying that they are hearing sirens in Columbus, Indiana. Columbus basically on the very eastern extent, kind of just outside that warning polygon. But again, good idea if you are in the Columbus area, back all throughout Brown County into the northern extent of this track, again, moving at about 55 miles per hour. That's what I put this track on. Good timing, especially just because we're in the overnight hours. Everyone's kind of waking up with us as these storms are moving through, and we want you just to be in your safe spot. So that's where I would be, in my safe spot, in this trajectory of where the core of that storm is moving. So we're looking at about 5:31 into the Columbus area. So that's just a little over 10 minutes from now. And then potentially on into Shelbyville just before the 6 o'clock hour, and then just after 6 a.m. if it does hold together. Rushville's going to be in this zone. So I know if you are in eastern Indiana, you've been up with us. We've been talking a lot about western Indiana, central parts of the state, southern. Now it is kind of moving into the eastern tier of the state. But that was anticipated. This was kind of a west to east moving line of storms. And the timing of this is really not ideal because most of us are sleeping, and we're disrupting your sleep if you're up watching us now. But it is, of course, better just to be prepared because we still got some active storms out there as we speak. So I'm going to take the tracker off and then get back to the radar and just give you an update of where we currently have these ongoing warnings. So Brown County going to be under this until 5:45. As the basically the core of that storm, the most intense part is now just south of the city of Nashville. And it is going to track over, that's State Road 46 right there. So tracking toward that. Do believe Columbus is going to be just outside of the main intense part of that storm, but still wouldn't want to mess with it. I would certainly still be in my safe place if I'm over in Columbus. And then that warning for Bartholomew County, also same part of that polygon there, that's going to run until 5:45. It does look like they have dropped Monroe County from the tornado warning as anticipated because the core of that storm has moved out. But as I put the actual radar back on, you can see that basically the strongest part of that has now cleared. Bloomington, it has now crossed over into Brown County, and then Nashville going to be getting hit pretty hard here. And then it's the southern extent, so just to the south of Nashville, where that rotation is currently showing up. But still, this storm is packing quite a bit of a punch, and we could certainly see some wind damage out of even the northern extent of this storm that's not rotating, even north of the city of Nashville. So Brown County kind of getting the thick of it as we speak, and then going to be lifting just to the north of Columbus here momentarily.
Yeah, so what I want to do is I want to try to get in as close as possible. Now, I've been hesitant to do that, and you may be saying, get in close. I want to see where this is. Can you show us where the couplet is? I've been a little hesitant because we are a good ways away from the radar. So oftentimes when we're this far away from where the radar is located, farther to the north, it's up very close to Plainfield. It's going to be located in this general area. That's where the radar dish is located. So you're talking about a distance here of where the tornado potential signature is of 40 miles or so. We don't get the best view as if it were right next to the tornado. So I've been hesitant to get in as close as possible, but using what we do know, I do want to try to get in as close as possible to show you where we could possibly have that rotation. So Camp Roberts here, Gnawbone, I think generally what the couplet is implying is that we've got winds moving away from the radar here, we've got winds moving towards the radar here, so somewhere in this general vicinity, and this goes back to the kind of large size of this tornado polygon, somewhere within that vicinity we can imply that there is a circulation. Now where is the exact tornado on the ground? If there is one, it's difficult to tell from the data that we have within the radar. But if you're in Gnawbone, Clarksdale, Stony Lonesome here, Bethany, Lake on the Green, Pikes Peak, these are the areas where the rotation, the broad rotation of the thunderstorm, the rotating thunderstorm could be producing a tornado. Eventually this is going to be moving through Mount Liberty here, getting in really close here. I'm trying to show as many of these roads so that you'll know these areas. Bellsville, Pike is one of the areas that we're going to be concerned about. And even if that rotation doesn't go necessarily directly over you, these areas are likely going to see some gusty winds, A, from the thunderstorm, but B, from potentially the inflow if there is one of these rotating thunderstorms. And then just to show you out ahead of that, the area where the storm is moving, it's going to be moving generally in that direction. So just to get in a little bit closer to show you the west side of Columbus, as Lindsay's been telling you, we think really this is probably going to stay west and eventually move north of Columbus, but we'll have to continue to watch it. Also, maybe North Park and probably getting in close here. We'll have to see. I'm going to be a little hesitant because it's outside of the tornado warning box to see where it may impact Interstate 65. Excuse me. But we're starting to see stronger, how can I say this clearly? The wind returns that are showing up on radar and the velocity there, the bright greens, the bright reds, those are showing up more intensely than perhaps the last few scans, but the circulation is still very broad. What Lindsay and I are looking at when we look at this radar image, this is different from just the reflectivity, which is how heavy the rain is or how heavy the hail is coming down. This is going to show winds. It's depicting winds in a direction. And what we look for, where we're seeing whether or not this is strengthening or weakening, is how tight or how close together are those bright reds and bright greens. And right now, they're not terribly close together, but we're also far enough away from the radar that that broad circulation could imply that there is a tornado on the ground, hence the tornado warning from the National Weather Service. This is going to be, again, east of Nashville. You still have gusty winds possible in Nashville and really in all of this area in Brown County over to Columbus. Even if that center of circulation doesn't go through, just consider that you're likely going to have some 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts as the storm moves on by. But the center of circulation, where the tornado warning is most concerning, looks to move very close to Gnawbone right now, and then just to the east of there, maybe Clarksdale. Let me get in a little bit closer here. Georgetown Road. This is in, again, the far eastern side of Brown County. I'll try to get in a little bit closer, see if any of the additional roads pop up. Hoover Road. These are the areas where the circulation is likely going to move very close. And then once we cross over the county line, Hickam Road, Gravel Road, these are areas where that center of circulation could get pretty close to moving through. At the very least, you're going to have a very strong thunderstorm move through. Lindsay, what have you been noticing?
Yeah, well, I've got a lot of questions because we have a pretty strong storm moving through Muncie right now. So this is north. And the reason we haven't really been talking a lot about it is because it's under severe limits. So I know we've got a lot of folks watching us up near Delaware County, and I don't want to discount let me put this on over here. I don't want to discount the storm moving through Muncie because it's obviously packing a punch. We've got very heavy rainfall. You're going to see frequent lightning. We're going to see wind gusts in excess of 40 to 50 miles per hour moving through basically Hartford City down through Muncie right now. But all of the parameters showing up on radar indicate that this particular line is below that severe threshold. So there is no active warning for Muncie, places like Anderson. I know that it sounds very loud and you're up with us early this morning and concerned about your neighborhood. We are concerned as well. And we do want you to know that basically Newcastle North, even though it looks pretty intense on radar, that it is below severe limits. So that's basically why we're primarily focusing on southern Indiana, where we still do have some rotating storms. Want to take this down into the metro. Had some questions about the Indianapolis downtown area, the 465 loop in Marion County. Also now in the clear. The most intense part of the line has moved out of the metro area, now tracking near Greenfield, just to the south of Newcastle. But again, all of that just below that severe threshold. So no active warning currently in effect for anything really along this stretch. I do have a camera in Franklin that I wanted to show you because it is raining pretty hard there right now. This is I-65 State Road 44. And then this is I-65 State Road 46. So this camera, I believe, that one is in, this one is down in Columbus, Indiana. So 65, Columbus now kind of getting the leading edge of that severe thunderstorm, warned storm moving into that area now. So certainly noticing the rainfall rate intensifying. And then that other camera, this was at I-65 State Road 44. This is the one that is located in Franklin. So the wind obviously picking up here. Looks like the heaviest of the rain is starting to dwindle out of this area as we speak. So I did just want to kind of take you on a tour across the entire central Indiana stretch because I know folks are up in the middle of the night. You want to get back to bed. You want to know if it's safe. But the Indianapolis Metro, it is clear. No active warnings north of I-70, and you have to go south of Franklin to get into the warnings that are currently ongoing in southern Indiana. So that's just kind of a recap across the state. Do again want to keep you updated with what we're watching down in Brown County, because this is where we've still got that active tornado warning going to be in effect at least for the next 15 minutes or so. And that extends outside of the tornado warning as a severe thunderstorm warning. And that includes southern portions of Decatur County and then Bartholomew County. And that runs all the way through 6 o'clock in the morning. And it also runs all the way south to Vienna, which is down into Scott County. So just kind of accounting for the leading edge of that line that's still tracking west to east across the state. We knew this was going to be an all basically overnight into the early morning hours of Saturday event, and that's certainly how it's playing out. But as far as this storm here, this did have a history of producing a tornado down near Lagodi, Indiana. That was about 45 minutes or so ago. So the primary thing we're watching is just seeing if this rotation is going to pick back up. It does look like there's some weak signs of that still happening just to the west of Columbus. So this is lifting northeast at 55 miles per hour. We're still going to continue to watch northern portions of Bartholomew County, kind of just to the north and northwest of Columbus. of Hope, and then potentially, if this holds together, going to potentially impact southern portions of Shelby County within the next 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, and I think most of that rotation that you're tracking there is likely now moving out of Brown County, almost completely now into Bartholomew County. But let me take you in to show you what we're tracking. There's the larger view. Once you get a little farther to the south, you start to notice, one thing sticks out, and it is that one large cell that we've been tracking. Let me put the velocity back on, and the reason why, again, is we're looking for those areas of bright green and bright red that are very close to each other, or if we do see some of these brighter colors, that's where the winds could be very intense. The county line, and again, I'll point this out so you can see it, the county line, it may be a little difficult to see, is right there. So now the couplet, and when I say couplet, I mean red and green put together there. That's what we're looking at. That's where the center of circulation is least indicated by radar or implied by radar. That's where we could see the circulation close to the ground. It's why the tornado warning is out. As Lindsay's been saying, looks to stay west and likely move north of Columbus because it's on a northeast trajectory here. Let me take that off and get in even closer just to give you some street names here because that's what most of us are familiar with. Sometimes on a map, it's not as easy to see. We're talking about County Road West, 500 West, 325 West, 265 north, that turns into a Hickam Road. We're looking at Baker Hollow. And again, I like to just call these out so that if you're in these areas, you know this is what's moving through. Georgetown Road. Now that's where the circulation is right now, but let me take you farther to the north. And you see we're running into that red line, which is the end of the tornado polygon. So some of the areas that we're looking at here is North County Road 500, Lowell Road. Then this is in Bartholomew County. This is north and west of Columbus. And then the large line that you see on your screen there doesn't have a label, but that is going to be Interstate 65 that eventually crosses with 31. So will it hold together? Will the Weather Service continue to issue for that rotation? It's certainly looking broader. Lindsay, you're giving me a thumbs down.
Yeah.
Did you get some new information on that?
Yeah, just a little bit ago, NWS saying that they're not anticipating issuing a downstream tornado warning at this time because the circulation does remain broad. And we did have some questions regarding this. No, it is not an active tornado on the ground. This is all radar indicated at this point. I did have some folks that were down in Brown County and into Bartholomew County asking that question. So the warnings that the National Weather Service continues to issue have been based off of radar indicated rotation. We have not had any confirmed reports of tornadoes since this storm cell was way down in southern portions of Martin County and Daviess County. So we're talking south of Washington, Indiana, near Lagodi, Indiana, where this storm initially came from. That's the last confirmed tornado on the ground from this. Since then, it has lifted, and it's basically going through cycles. We have not had any other reports of this actually impacting the ground since it kind of lifted near Lagodi. So that's where that stands right now, radar indicated.
Yeah, and one quick note for those that may have been watching us or perhaps weren't watching us at that point, just want you to watch the radar here. This is over the last couple of hours or so, and when this resets, look at the bottom left of your screen. You'll notice the red boxes, which we often show you with tornado warnings, but in our computer system, if there is a confirmed tornado warning, as you're seeing there, it flashes that pink or lavender color with the black, and that's where the National Weather Service says, yes, this has been confirmed. We have confirmed reports of a tornado. You can see that's as it was approaching Lagodi, and then it was more radar indicated, and that's what we've been seeing with the rotation since it has exited Lagodi. So the signal is there on radar, but we don't have any confirmation of it. Still want to caution you, treat it as it's a tornado warning, as if there is one on the ground, because keep in mind, it is 5:30 in the morning, it is dark, tornadoes can't be spotted as easily overnight. We just don't get the ground truth as easily as if it were during the day, so I don't want you to necessarily disregard it. Just make sure you understand what we are looking at and how that relates to what you're looking at right now. So likely will not see that tornado warning extended. However, still know that there is a lot of really gusty wind. And let me just set the radar back into the current state and just kind of take a little bit of a jog in here. It's been one heck of a lightning storm for many of you overnight. There's been quite a lot of frequent lightning. I'm going to put the lightning on so you can see, especially with this storm. And you also notice they just issued a new severe thunderstorm warning. This one's going to go and cover parts of Bartholomew County, eventually all the way up into Rush County for those gusty winds. That strong cell, and I'll turn off the lightning so that you can see what we're talking about here. Once I remove the lightning underneath that, this very intense return on the radar, this is the traditional radar view that we show you, where we just actually look at how intense the rain is. Lindsay, what you got there? Show me.
N.1 right now. This is Franklin.
If they're able to pull that up, yeah.
Woo! Check that out.
Yeah. And we've noticed with both of these with these storms that have been happening all night. By the way, notice the vehicles with their flashers on. Lightning, you're going to notice a lot of that. The lightning has been prolific. These have been extremely electrical storms. The power outages have probably been, that we have seen so far, have probably been from both winds but also from the lightning aspect of this storm. It's continuing to move to the northeast, and they've been moving at a pretty good clip. When you have the heavy rains, like what you're seeing right there on your screen, when you have those very heavy rains, not only is it just transporting water, the rain, but it's also transporting some of the energy in the atmosphere down to the surface. So that's why where we do have the intense gusty winds, that's where it's because of those very strong, heavy downpours able to transport some of that wind that may be aloft in the mid-levels or lower levels of the atmosphere actually down to the surface. And you're seeing it there in those sheets of rain. And it's in these areas that we're looking at here. You said that was a camera near Franklin, is that correct?
Yeah, yep, moving through Franklin, State Road 44, I-65, and then the other camera I was watching is down in Columbus, which is I-65 at State Road 44. They basically look the same. This is just, again, kind of like one long line that's from Franklin down to Columbus and all in between. It's crossing over the 65 corridor right now, and it's creating these conditions where it's going to be very difficult to drive. I mean, we could potentially see up to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts within this. Visibility is going to be reduced, and obviously this frequent lightning. I mean, this is going to waterlog roads as well.
And something to mention, you mentioned the difficulty driving with the gusty winds. Look at the orientation here. It's hard to tell until you get some of those bright flashes of light, but the winds are going to be out of the west. These are going to be strong west winds that move through with these storms. Interstate 65 runs north-south, so that's a strong crosswind. So if you're that tractor trailer that just moved through, as we saw in Texas and Oklahoma earlier in the day today with 60 to 80 mile per hour winds, that's going to make travel dangerous. And you see a lot of folks have their emergency flashers on just because of the heavy rain, more than likely, but they may be surprised by those wind gusts that pick up, as often some of the semi-trailer drivers are often caught off guard by some of those gusty winds. And that's exactly what we're looking at there in the radar signature. Still has a little bit of that circulation signature to it, but definitely not as strong as it was before. And just prolific lightning that's continuing with these. The gusty winds are part of the severe thunderstorm warning that is still ongoing. That one is going to go into effect until 6:15. Now, keep in mind, at 6 o'clock, we typically begin our newscast coverage. So there will be a transition period here as we get through the next 23 minutes or so to kind of prepare you for our 6 o'clock newscast that will likely include some severe weather coverage, but also, of course, the news of the day, and then setting us up for the forecast, which includes the possibility of more storms later in the day today, but then also a dramatic change in the forecast as we look to Sunday, where the temperatures are significantly going to drop here. Let's go back and let me kind of zoom out just a bit here, take you to a larger picture, because Lindsay mentioned something, and she's been really keeping an eye with those of you that are watching us, perhaps on our social media channels, Facebook, into the chat. What's going on where I am? I know we've been focusing exactly on where that strongest rotation was, farther to the south, but there's a whole line of storms. I'm just going to set it into motion while I chat here. Once that line passes, and you'll notice it here in the watch the watch get trimmed back as that line moves through. Once we use up the energy and cool the atmosphere down because of the rain that's been going down, there's not much left to work with. And also, you'll notice at the bottom of your screen, that's where that storm was approaching Lagodi. And given what Lindsay and Sean and Angela and I were all looking at with that storm, it was confirmed. We did see some debris on radar at some point, and that's now the storm that is right now a severe thunderstorm warning that's going to be moving into Bartholomew, the northern part of Bartholomew County. Will we have seen damage there? It's going to be difficult to tell until a couple of hours from now once the sun comes up and we're able to get a view of what's been happening on the ground. The all clear will really be once those storms move by. The western side of Indy, really most of Indy right now in the metro is seeing things calm down a bit. There's still lightning, still some heavy rain at times, still going to hear some rumbles of thunder, probably at least for the next hour in the metro, and then things should begin to improve. You'll get a break through mid-morning, I think, and then we may pick up the possibility for showers during the afternoon with another round, potentially of some showers and storms as we get into the afternoon. Just on a side note, I think we're going to have a very significant severe weather event unfold down south where they have a high risk of severe weather. Our risk was only enhanced and slight today, so it's going to be a different situation that's ongoing there. Lindsay.
All right, so we've got this kind of tail end of that tornado warning that is currently near Columbus. That was set to expire 5:45 and about 4 minutes from now. Obviously, the core of that storm has moved out of that area, so it's completely in the clear. We are still focusing north of there, so now that's completely even moved out of Bartholomew County. It's now moving into southern Shelby County and going to continue to lift off to the northeast into southern portions of Rush County, should it hold together. But the signs of this remaining in rotation are certainly weakening. We have not had any real signs of rotation here in the past several radar scans, and even the Weather Service said that they did not plan on continuing with that tornado warning. So that's just going to be the downgrade a bit. Still, obviously, these storms certainly packing a punch, which is why there is a severe thunderstorm warning that's been extended. So where we would see that rotation, it's kind of right there on the line in between Shelby County and northern Bartholomew County. Should that hold together, again, we could still see some pretty significant wind gusts within that, lifting off to the northeast, and that's going to be primarily between now and then when it makes its way into southern portions of Rush County. That will likely be about 6:15 in the morning. So we've got another 30 minutes or so. That storm is something that we will continue to watch. And then outside of that, it's mainly just been the thunderstorm threat, the potential of those damaging wind gusts with some power outages and some branches coming down, things like that, that will continue to impact that stretch. So right now, this is going to likely expire. If it doesn't expire early, just know that that threat has completely moved out of the Columbus area. Again, we're now kind of watching any remnant rotation, which is very weak, very broad, north of the City of Hope, and that's going to track across. Let me zoom in a little closer here to see what this road is here. That's State Road 9. Okay, so that's State Road 9, southern portions of Shelby County, and then eventually could clip here the very north and northwestern portions of Rush County before moving into, I should say, Decatur County before then moving into Rush County. So that's going to be what plays out here over the next 30 minutes. Everything else, again, we've been talking if you're in Newcastle North, basically I-70 North, if you're basically Hancock County West, in the clear at this point, as we will likely see this warning expire here. We'll monitor this last little pocket, Rob, of some ongoing stronger rotation, but still weak enough that we do not expect that tornado warning to be continued.
Yeah, so a couple of bits of information. Let me my mic back on. That was on me because I wanted to make sure that we were able to talk about, we're approaching our newscast at 6 o'clock. So keep in mind, we will have updates on what's going on with the weather, but also with the latest news of the day starting at 6 a.m. But we're going to continue with our severe weather coverage. We're not going anywhere. I do have some new information. So a couple of things here. First of all, Bloomington, as the storm came through, we saw a gust to 64 miles per hour. That was within the thunderstorm. Once the thunderstorm passed, just within the stratiform rain that you're looking at there, once that large cell moved through and the tornadic supercell really stayed to your south, then there was an additional gust of 59 miles per hour that was not necessarily within or embedded within the strongest part of that thunderstorm. So we are still seeing gusty winds even outside of where we're concerned about the possibility of rotation, the tornado warning. Still know that outside of that, just within the severe thunderstorm warnings, we have ongoing reports of 60 plus miles per hour. Keep that in mind. If you are downstream of this. If you are Greensburg, Shelbyville, Connorsville, these areas are going to continue to see that chance for gusty winds to surpass 60 miles per hour. Also want to pass along this. We do have some weak circulation that's still moving into Shelby County. That's where we've been tracking that same circulation. That circulation produced a tornado warning and a confirmed tornado near Lagodi. National Weather Service is saying that they are getting additional reports of damage in the Lagodi area and that they are going to be coordinating the need for tornado surveys. When we bring you the tornado warnings, we're not able to confirm whether or not a tornado has happened, unless, of course, there's footage of it or something that really is definitive. But generally, in order to classify this and to declare that it was a tornado that moved through, National Weather Service has to send out survey teams. Standard procedure, they will likely be doing that today in Lagodi, also in the Mecca area. And this is where we saw that very strong couplet. It's the cell that you're looking at that is continuing to track to the north and east and that has that circulation that's now moving into Shelby County. Let me get you in close there just to show you what's going on with that circulation. This is the strongest cell, and I'll set it to where we are currently in time so we can see the absolute latest. Impressive rainfall, potentially some hail within that. It's also likely where we're seeing that broader circulation. It's actually a little bit offset from that, maybe farther to the south and east. This is going to be moving through Flat Rock, Norristown, probably north of Norristown. We're looking at State Road 9 there, up to Wilson Corner, and then continuing eventually over into 74. I'm trying to just off the top of my head remember where the Honda plant is there, how far to the south it is. I think it's a little farther south, but it is contained within. It's likely going to at least have some gusty winds moving through there. You see Greensburg on the map, and 74 will likely have those gusty winds moving through. If you're on the Shelby County side of 74, your gusty winds are likely either happening or are about to move through imminently, especially where you see that brightest return on radar. The very intense rain likely indicates that there is very intense rain, but it also may include a little bit of hail. We haven't seen much hail with the storms once they've gotten here, but many of the storms were producing some significant hail farther to the south and west. Keep in mind, a lot of times where we're seeing that most intense rain shaft or the most intense amount of rain isn't necessarily where that center, that rotation could be. And again, there's no tornado warning with this, but there is still a minor circulation that has been showing up on radar. Let me just broaden the view just a bit, just to show you what's going on elsewhere. Still watching that line, about to approach Greensburg, by the way. Eventually this will move through Connorsville, likely will move pretty close to Connorsville, and then at some point Richmond down the line. I think once we get that through here, the rain may be ongoing for several more hours beyond that, but I think we're certainly going to see an improvement in our forecast. The tornado watch is continuing to be trimmed back. That's the pink boxes that you see behind our radar there. Those are going to continue to be trimmed back as long as the rain has cooled us down, the dynamics have shifted to the east, and these very strong cells that have been producing gusty winds and tornadic signatures continues also to move to the east. So again, Richmond, Connorsville, Greensburg, you still have a little bit of time here and a little bit of leftover energy as the temperatures are pretty warm. Speaking of that, let me do a couple things. Let me just bring up the temperatures just to show you what the numbers have been and really look what the storms have done. They have cooled down into the 50s to near 60 where the storms have moved through. Meanwhile, it's still in the mid 60s, but certainly cooler than where it has been for Richmond. And I think that's also one of the reasons why we're not seeing the storms quite as strong as they were earlier in the evening when we still had 70 degree readings. 59, there's that 59 mile per hour wind gust that we saw in Bloomington. That was after the thunderstorms moved through. So we had a 64 mile per hour wind gust as the storms moved into Bloomington, a 52 mile per hour wind gust in Indianapolis as the storms rolled by there. Still impressive values and certainly will cause power outages as well as down trees. And we know the gamut of things that occur with these strong storms. You get a break once this line moves through, and I'm saying a break because once we get into the afternoon, We may pick up the chance for more pop-up showers and storms, probably driven by the upper level part of the system. Should not have the severe nature that these have, but there may also be some dynamics still in place, and wouldn't rule out the possibility of some small hail with some of the showers today, just because the upper level part of the system is certainly going to be much colder than what you're seeing move through right now. Again, let me get in real close just to show you some of the areas where we're having the most intense rain and the most intense thunderstorms right now. Still have some severe thunderstorm warnings. These really go all the way down to the state line, all the way over into Ohio at this point. That's going to go until 6:30, so that will be once we are into our newscast. And again, our newscast is going to begin at the top of the hour. We, of course, will continue with severe weather coverage as needed, but we also want to update you on what's happening with the news of the day as per usual. There's also the additional severe thunderstorm warning that also includes Shelby County as well as Rush County until 6:15 a.m. The news update is coming in with some of the radar data. Still see some of the intense rain right now into Shelby County, moving just past Shelbyville, but on the eastern side of the county, Interstate 74, very heavy rain ongoing and probably gusty winds, especially within those heaviest rainfall returns. So typically we try to tell you not to look at exactly where the brightest colors are on your radar, because that's not where necessarily the most intense part of the storm is. But in this case, I think that may be where some of the strongest gusts are located. Rushville, we're looking at Richland, over to Orange. We're looking at Connorsville at some point. It's going to see that storm move through. It's not warned at the moment if you're in Connorsville, but not too far down the line, you'll probably see this storm impact you, likely with some gusty winds and very heavy rain. Again, power outages are a concern here. Farther to the south, Jackson, the storm is just moving through. Versailles, probably going to see the storm within the next 5 to maybe 10 minutes or so. These are moving to the east at a very fast pace. We've seen anywhere from 50 to maybe 65 mile per hour that the storm has been progressing to the east. Greensburg, the storm is almost right on top of you. I mentioned the Honda plant a little bit earlier, right off of Interstate 74. Interstate 74 is probably a difficult travel at this point. Wait till this moves through. Again, they're moving through pretty quickly, so if you wait a little bit, you're likely going to see these move on by. And Lindsay, I notice you're looking at some of the cameras there, and I see them rocking and rolling if they're able to pull that up.
Oh, yeah. This one's very intense. So this is the camera in Shelbyville. This is down I-74, State Road 44. I mean, the camera just kind of tells the story in itself. I mean, these winds are certainly picking up, and that's kind of the part of the radar that you were showing where the most intense returns are on the radar. The fact that if we do have any lingering rotation as well, albeit weak, but any of that lingering rotation, the Weather Service is focusing on that small sliver of southern Shelby County, and it does look like they're going to go ahead and continue with the severe thunderstorm warning for northern portions of Shelby County going into Rush County, as this is becoming more of an outflow dominant storm core, still showing a pretty good wind signature. So there will be an extension from this storm you see here into northern portions of Shelby County and then into Rush County as well.
Yeah, and most people, again, it is Saturday morning, so we're looking at a time frame here where most people are not having to go to work because it is the weekend. I know there are some of you that work weekends, and I get it, and I know you want to be updated, but the roads are certainly not as active at this hour on a Sunday as perhaps what we're dealing with maybe on a Friday morning or a Monday morning. So we're certainly seeing some improvement there, that we don't have the volume of traffic. It's still going to be a treacherous drive. Let these storms move through before you try to venture out, because not only is the rain going to be blinding, but also with the visibility concerns, but also the gusty winds, especially for some of the high profile vehicles. It really is going to be difficult to travel with a crosswind coming across Interstate 74. And it looks like 74 and 70 are probably going to be the eastern side of 70 here, probably going to be the two that we still have yet to deal with. There's going to be a lot of water on the roads for even into Indianapolis, but it is not the combined factor that they're dealing with farther to the south. This is that outflow dominant storm that Lindsay was talking about. You can kind of see it's becoming a little bit more linear Let me show you what I'm talking about here, kind of north to south, because this is the outflow boundary that's pushing east. And as it does so, we're likely going to see some gusty winds continue to move that way, some gusty winds continue to move that way. And that just gives you a good idea that as these storms push east, they're helping to drive some of that lower level jet that Sean Ash was talking about a little bit earlier this evening down to the surface. That's going to happen in Rushville. It is weaker than what we were looking at earlier, and you can see the new radar scan is coming in, but it is definitely, there's still a little bit of rotation appeared to be in there, maybe closer to, I noticed it's just sometimes when I'm working the radar, things catch my eye on what Lindsay is doing, and I get interested in kind of multiple aspects of the storm. But this is the area probably right underneath that very intense rain that you're looking at. The very bright reds, the very kind of deep, kind of almost purple and pink colors is where we're likely seeing some very gusty winds. And even out ahead of that, probably some of the gustiest winds could be even in this area out ahead of it, approaching Rushville. In fact, that one little kind of appendage that's out ahead of this, right here in Rushville, let me put it towards the center of your screen. This may be where we're seeing some of the wind kind of pushing out ahead of the storm. As the outflow boundary pushes ahead of this. So sometimes you get those little kind of finger appendages that push out ahead of the storm is one indication that we're seeing some gusty winds. It's an often common radar signature, not necessarily where that rain, that brightness on the radar is showing up the heaviest. Sometimes the winds can certainly be out ahead of that before the storm even gets there. Again, we're still tracking severe thunderstorm warnings. Let me kind of show you what we're looking at. We have really seen the the tornado watch trimmed back from west to east. That's going to continue. Don't see it dropped yet for the metro area, but that is likely going to be coming as this line moves out of the eastern side of the city. Still going to deal with some rain if you're in the city. If you have to get out and about over the next couple of hours or so, the interstates are likely going to have water on them, ponding on the roadways, especially on the eastern side of the city and the southern side of the city. The south side probably going to have some wet roadways at least for the next couple of hours before finally we get this part of the system out of here. And I'm saying part of the system because we do have a secondary part of the system, and I'll see if I can pull that up just to show you what we're tracking that includes a high risk. Notice the area in purple farther to the south. That's where there is a high risk of severe storms. Now, I know we're dealing with severe weather locally, but I want to emphasize that high risk was issued yesterday. 2 days out, or day out for the Storm Prediction Center. That has only ever happened 3 other times in the history of the Storm Prediction Center where they have issued a high risk of severe weather for the next day. That's how certain that they are that we'll likely see some very strong tornadoes into parts of the deep south. Now, look at the green that extends into Indiana. That means that as we get into the time frame that we're looking at from now even into picking these storms back up later this evening, we may still have some of the leftover dynamics. But having said that, we are certainly seeing things improve, and I am optimistic by what I'm seeing on radar here. Still have the watch in place. That's the tornado watch in the pink boxes. That's going to be ongoing, but will likely be trimmed back. Still have some severe thunderstorm warnings that are ongoing until 6:30 a.m. Severe thunderstorm warning until 6:15 a.m., depending on which side of the severe thunderstorm that you are located on. The heavy rain is going to continue, especially if you are in Rushville. Rushville is really right into kind of the bullseye for this. And just to reset here, what's going to be happening here as we approach the top of the hour is we're going to reset for our 6 o'clock newscast, where we not only will be ongoing with severe weather of what's happening, what's going to be the forecast for the rest of the day, because we know that chance is going to continue, but also what's been happening with the news of the day as you get your weekend started or kicking into your Saturday for sure. Still going to track what's happening with these storms, still have ongoing storms. Let me put this into motion very quickly. And if Lindsay, if you have anything new that comes across there as I've been kind of driving the radar here, please let me know. We no longer have a tornado warning that's been in place. The tornado warning that was in place farther to our south and west, the one that we've been concerned about in Lagodi, where we know there's been some damage in Mecca as well, that has weakened. The circulation, the rotation that was there is now much weaker than it was. It's just a severe thunderstorm warning at this point, but still can produce some gusty winds.
Yeah, and just to kind of point out the very end of this, They are still just issuing these severe thunderstorm warnings, mainly because of the threat of these damaging wind gusts. So now that warning has been extended up into southern portions of Henry County, and that's going to be in effect until about 6:15. So for the next 15 minutes or so, that warning will be ongoing there. That does again extend into Rush County. We've got portions of Shelby County, although Shelbyville is now on the backside of the leading edge of this, or the heaviest part of that thunderstorm line, now in the clear of that. So basically we're on the tail end of this. Probably within the next hour we will be completely clear of this. But as far as all of the active warnings here in central Indiana, they will be ongoing at 6:15, and we're going to continue to keep you covered with a wall-to-wall weather coverage here at the top of the hour. I'm going to go reset at the desk. I'll toss it to you, Rob, and then I'll see everyone back here in just a few minutes.
Okay, again, we are looking at, you have been watching ongoing severe coverage of what's been happening with severe weather moving across parts of central Indiana, ongoing severe weather coverage. We've been watching storms move across Indiana throughout the overnight. Things are certainly calming down, but we still have that threat for severe weather for a little bit longer as we still watch storms move through the eastern and southeastern part of the state. News 13 begins right now.